I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Yo, 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 what's good, everybody? You are now listening to another episode of the Man Listen Show, but before we get started, let's hear a few words from our sponsors.
D's at Nat. Flavor to your function. D's Daiquiri. Good people, good vibe, one drink at a time. Good people, good vibe, one drink at a time. Flavor to your function. D's Daiquiri. Good people, good vibe, one drink at a time. Good people, good vibe, one drink. Wanna kick back, wanna just vibe. Wanna kick back. Let me first slide to the drink store. Let me just buy DD drink mixes, all of them fire. Fill me up a case, I'm finna drop bread. Marvelous mango, classic and red. Took them to the party, these folks won't leave me alone. They wanting me to share, they better get their own. DD's at Nat. Flavor to your function. DD's Daiquiri. Good vibe, one at a time. Good vibe, one at a time.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% black all the time. Please follow the show on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Man Listen Show. You can also subscribe to the show on iTunes, on YouTube. Make sure you leave a comment, make sure you give us a thumbs up, and make sure you let everybody know about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. I'm your host, Marv B. Let's bring the crew in. All right, y'all. So he finally did it. As of today, Joe Byron announced his plan for canceling student loans. He announced it today. It really was kind of, people already knew what was coming. It had already been leaked. Some of the details, some of the finite details weren't put out there, but as expected, he announced that anybody that makes less than $125,000 a year, single person individual income makes less than $125,000 a year, the federal government will forgive $10,000 of their student loans. He also stated that if you receive Pell Grants while you were in undergraduate school, in college, you'll get $20,000 forgiven. He also stated that they also announced that they will extend the pause on payments for federal student loans to December 31st, 2022. So we got into the end of the year to, to get ourselves ready to start paying again for those of us who still have student loans. And then there was other couple minor things, not really minor, but I think it's kind of big, and we'll talk about a little bit later, but they capped how much of your, is it annual income or monthly income?
Monthly.
Your monthly income that can go towards your student loans. It used to be 10%, now it's 5%. Also, for people who I think have less than $12,000 in student loans, if you have made 10 years of payments, they'll go ahead and forgive the debt. That used to be 20 years. So a lot of people are very happy about this because of the position that they're in. There's some people that said it's not enough. We're going to go ahead and get everybody's opinion. Okay, when you first saw it come through the wire that he finally announced it, because we kind of heard a lot of this, what was your initial thoughts? I'm gonna save our resident Republican for last. Lad, what was your thoughts, man, when you first saw it come through?
When I first saw the 10 grand, honestly, I was like, it's better than nothing, definitely. But when you run on a campaign promise of, and maybe I don't recall the promise exactly what he was saying, but it just felt like it fell short of what I felt like we were promised or what we were told was going to happen. To me, $10,000 is a lot, right? But if you have $40,000 worth of student loans, it's really not going to make an immediate impact on you. because you're still going to have to pay that same amount back. Now, it'll impact you 15 years down the line or 10 years down the line where you're done paying off your debt a little earlier. But, you know, I don't think it was anything that's going to energize the economy or anything like that.
Well, a lot of people say it might be the opposite, because it may increase inflation, because inflation is, and I know some economists will get on me if I get this wrong, but inflation is where you just have a bunch of extra cash floating around the economy and people are spending it. And that's what's causing the situation that we're in. So they're saying that could be a downside of this move. Inflation, you know, going even higher than what it is right now. 10,000, I think he kind of said that he was comfortable with 10,000. I know some of the extreme liberals want him to do 50,000. My thing is, I was like, hey, whatever you gave to Ukraine, you should have gave to the American citizens. So if by the end of the day, when the budget office looks, okay, what's the impact on the budget by them wiping off our debt? If it ain't greater, if it ain't equal to or greater than what they gave to Ukrainians, then, you know, hey, listen, it fell short. Now, I'm not going to be ungrateful. 10 grand is a lot of money, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't wipe out all of my student loans. I still have some to pay, but I know for millions of people, they're now no longer in debt. They're now no longer in debt because they had, you know, 10,000 or less in student loans. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a very good thing, because I'm going to assume a good portion of those are going to be ADOS. So, and then when you talk about the amount that could go towards your student loans per month, and if you are, you know, so far or so close to the poverty line, the amount that you have to pay is very minimal. I think those are things that are going to have an immediate impact for the Black community. So I definitely think it's a good thing. I still think that, yeah, they probably could have done more. They should have done more, because we are their constituency. We're their base. You know, when Trump was in office, we talked about it. Trump knew how to wield power. What his base wanted, he put it into place. The Democrats, they don't do that. They waffle back and forth, and they say, hey, you know, what can we do where it won't come back to us in the future, where it could be negative. The Republicans, they don't care. Listen, we in power. What we want, we're gonna do right now. So I was happy to see it. I still think they could have done more, but, you know, I'm not going to be ungrateful and say, man, it ain't really nothing. So, Arika, what was your thoughts?
Man, I'm gonna be ungrateful. I was like, $10,000. First of all, I owe over $200,000. Not that I was going to pay any of it back anyway. I told Sally Mae gonna put me in the negative column years ago. I already got a house and a car. Do what you will. You can forbearance me to death because you're not getting that money. And then I had the same thought that you had about the Ukraine. I was like, if you took that $3 billion you just gave him and added to this might have actually meant something over here. But then I saw an article that said that over 9 million people will have their student loans completely wiped out. And I was like, okay, well, I won't be a brat then for myself. I'll be happy for those people that are going to be completely out of debt. Mostly because, like you said, like, it's not necessarily the having the student loans paid, it's the impact that having that debt off of their shoulders is going to have on their lives. Not even just having more money in their pockets, but having a default student loan can stop you from getting a house, a loan, you know, impact your credit and stuff like that. So that might open a lot of people up to opportunities that they didn't think would be possible because they weren't planning on paying those student loans either. So we could see a lot of positive changes coming from this opportunity to wipe out these loans. But I definitely think he could have done more easily, because they've been giving money to the Ukraine over and over again without even thinking about it. But they got to sit down and do a think tank to do something for the American people. That's the craziest thing to me, because that's our money that you sent to the Ukraine. You're giving us our money back in this student loan forgiveness program. Like, you're not doing us any favor. This is our money. Like, we're the ones working hard for it. Then you take it from us. And then you're like, okay, I'll give you a couple dollars back. And then want us to jump up and down and be like, you're so great. No, not for real. I was going to circle back to the public service loan forgiveness program through student loan place or whatever, I think that that is a good opportunity for people who are mostly underpaid anyway to have some of their loans forgiven. But I mean, again, you're just taking money that they gave you initially anyway, and then saying, okay, now you don't owe it back to me, but I'm gonna need you to start collecting some of that money back from Ukraine. Are we ever gonna see that? Are you gonna give us our money back on that? What's our return on that loan? I'd like to see that investment.
Yeah, my thing is, they talked about how, like, you always hear the big thing about, okay, we don't want to give black people reparations because y'all just be buying Jordans and flossing and all that stuff. Did you see where they had the president and wife of Ukraine was doing Vogue magazine cover shots? And we like, hey man, you're supposed to be at war, and when you got time to pose for Vogue magazine, like, what's up with that? So, and I had an issue with that. I think, to your point, Arika, this really does help the people who are underpaid and the people who are, serving the community, like teachers and our frontline workers. It definitely helps them. I know a lot of people were against this because they said, well, what about the doctors and the lawyers and the people, with professional degrees who are making tons of money? And I'm thinking, like, well, yeah, like, I know most doctors got like $500,000 worth of debt. I think the impact on those frontline workers, and again, we know a significant portion of them are ADOS. I think this is a positive thing. It's definitely a step in the right direction, because had he not done anything, that'd have been a problem. That'd have been a real big problem. So, I've been waiting to hear this. What was your thoughts?
So my thoughts probably not as eventful as you think, even though I am a Republican. When I first saw it and came across, I honestly thought it was just one of those things that just pop up and, and there's something that he was talking about, but it wasn't finalized. It wasn't for hours later. I'm not going to say that I'm ungrateful or I think it's low, but it is. Like Arika said, I mean, anything helps, but if you look at how much foreign aid the U.S. just dishes out to all these countries all over the world, it's kind of offensive. And that's not like a dig at Joe or even Democrats. That's just America, period. Even when Trump was in office, when the economy took that huge hit way back when COVID first started in 2020. They were arguing, the Congress and the Senate and the House, they were arguing over where they're paying people. What was it, like maybe $1,500 a person or $2,000? I don't know what it was. They were arguing over that small amount of a couple payments to help Americans out. But then as soon as Ukraine has a little bit of a beef, a few fights, with Russia, and all of a sudden here's billions of dollars. So I mean, I don't get it. And that's what a lot of people who claim to be so patriotic and, so for America over everything else, they're really quiet when they're spending money or sending money across, seas, whether it's European nations or Middle Eastern or any other stuff. But anytime you talk about helping people right here, they got a problem with it, And you bring up reparations right now and half the nation will just go crazy. Black folks included. It's like, oh, well, I don't think they need it. And where are we going to get it from? Where's the money going to come from? But, Ukraine, we're in, still coming out of the pandemic. Supposedly, the economy's it's been going downward this entire time. Gas prices, we can't get any relief. Food's gone up. But, we can send billions to Ukraine. Like, where did that money come from? So that's why I think the $10,000 was offensive. I'm glad Joe did it. Like Lav said, I think initially he had said that he was going to forgive $50,000, if I'm not mistaken. And then I know towards the end, right before he got in, he did drop it to 10. So I'm glad he did make good on one promise. Not enough for me to vote for him next time, but I mean, I'm glad he did it. I think it is going to help people. And then Marv, when you said people were like, that's just going to create, have people have more disposable income to blow. Most of the people that were making, under 125,000 across the nation wasn't making the max payments on their student loans anyway. There were probably people that were deferring them every year because they don't have that extra money just to spend. So like Arika said, the biggest benefit is going to be when you go to apply for, a home, a mortgage or a vehicle, you're not going to have all that money that it says that you owe on you. So hopefully it helps everybody's credit.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's a major boost to people. Again, I know a lot of people are like, man, he should have did more. But again, I'm glad that he kept his promise, because had he not, going into midterms, they're already lining up to get slaughtered in the midterms. And I'm somewhat hesitant because I saw some people talk about it. Joe made this announcement, but there may be some lawsuits. There may be some people, you know, there's a lot of people that don't think they kind of salty that we're getting our loans forgiven. You know, people who are like, well, I paid mine off, why can't everybody else pay theirs?
Man,
That crab in the barrel type of mindset. My person, yeah, I'm calling you a crab in the barrel. I'm calling you a crab in the barrel.
I mean, that's just a silly way of thinking. That's like saying, oh, all these people are getting all these child credit, you know, payments back and my kids are grown. So now I need you to repay me because I didn't get that much money when my kids were under, you know what I mean? This is silly.
Man, we were having a I was in a meeting today, and that's after the meeting we were just talking about it. And it was me and I'm not even young, a younger cat. And the old people was like, yeah, we paid ours off. You know, they were on that stuff. And it's just like, other dude made an analogy. He said that'd be like they come out with a cure for cancer, right? And so the government gives people the cure, and these people are like, man, I paid all this money for my chemo and all, you know, all this, you know. I mean, it's a pretty good analogy. That, you know, that was one that hit home, that I said I'm gonna use that, because people talk about that. Then you can go back through history, you know, nothing is ever fair across the board. There's nothing that's ever going to be done that's fair to everybody. And so, you know, what they say, don't hate, congratulate. let me get my 10 racks and go on along, you know.
And it's silly because none of these people say a word when all these PPP loans for these big corporations are being forgiven. They don't say a word about that.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say this though, you know, hindsight is 20. Nobody knew that this was ever going to come down the pipeline, things like that. But there may be people that feel kind of a certain way because say I'm not going to take out a loan, so they didn't go to college, you know, and they chose a different career path and things like that. And those are some people that I'm not going to say that justifies them being salty, but you know, you never know what's going to happen. So
that's a decision that you made, though.
Yeah, that right.
Right, but too, and I felt the same way about that when people started getting these licenses to open legal marijuana businesses. All these people in jail doing all these life sentences, and now it's legal. So now these other people can start making millions and dollars off of weed when half of us got records over it. You're not going back trying to clear their records. You're not making that argument. Oh, well, they shouldn't have served that time. Oh, you gonna pay them back for that time they was in? No,
right.
So let me ask you this.
I don't care about them PPP loans. They chasing down all those people. I'm like, what you need to be chasing down is that money at the Ukraine and get it back.
Yeah, especially
you out here posing for pictures.
You in Vogue,
going on vacation.
You're in Vogue magazine. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you got time for a photo shoot? Ain't on a vacation.
Right. So let me ask you.
He was a celebrity before he was a president. He was like I ain't gonna say they orange dude, but he was like a reality star before he became president, though.
Well, and that's fine. Just wait it out. Wait a moment. It's timing.
No. I'm just saying, you know.
But so let me ask you this. C already gave her answer. So gas is going down. It's going down. At least for me here in Texas, it is. I see the difference. Biden was able to get his big bill passed, right? They called it the what do they call it? The
Inflation Reduction Act.
Inflation Reduction Act, but they actually said it does nothing about inflation. It's just what they named it. But I saw that there were some things in there that were positive. And the one that stuck out to me was the reduction in prescription medicine costs. In particular insulin, because you know we got a lot of us that got the sugar, so that's a positive. With this move, right, and with the passing of his bill, we was calling him one-term Joe. Has this changed your mind?
Nope.
I thought he wasn't even running again. He is not there.
Yeah, it
He's
doesn't have
not
nothing to do
present
with
and accounted for. He
right.
needs to go retire and sit
What
down.
what did C
Democrats
say?
do not
What did
have
C
a
say?
second plan.
Weekend at Bernie's. C says
Yep.
weekend at Bernie's.
He needs to
Yeah,
go
the
somewhere and get
Democrats
his
don't have a
sponge
plan.
baths.
I'm telling you, they're gonna weaken and
Did,
burn
did,
you.
did y'all see the one? He was standing behind a guy, and the dude turned around, shook Joe's hand, shook another dude's hand, and then Joe was sitting there like,
And then looked at him like, you didn't
like,
shake
you're not
my
gonna shake
hand.
my hand, and I was just like, oh my gosh,
I
this
saw
is,
that.
Where's his handler? Where's his handler?
I didn't see
hey,
that one, man.
laugh. It was like, like when you put your hand out to dap somebody
Yeah.
up and they leave you hanging. Joe, that dude had already shook his hand, and he was like, man, he gonna leave me hanging? Like,
Lab, I'll find it and send it to you. I sent it to my
Man.
friend because he's just a big time Democrat. And I said, "Is this your king?" Like on
This is your
no.
like on Black Panther.
But honestly, I think the Democrats, they still got a problem just
They
because
do. They do.
I don't know if they got a candidate that can stand up against Trump or that boy DeSantis, because that boy DeSantis, he's young. He might not, because Trump might not be able to run.
No, I don't think
Trump might not be able. And I think that's why they're going so hard at him.
I think after 2 impeachments, you can't run again, right?
Nah, he can still run. Yeah, he can still run.
I thought he had
He
2.
can
I
still
don't
run.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they didn't pass it. They didn't
Yeah.
find him guilty. They just brought
Oh,
he was just
yeah. So you gotta,
so,
okay.
he can still. I think that's why they raided Mar-a-Lago and they doing all that stuff, right? They're trying to get him to like, okay, we don't even want you being able to run because we won't have to deal with you.
but
that boy DeSantis, I think he's an idiot. He's probably more of an idiot than Trump, because at least Trump knows how to manipulate people, or at least manipulate the idiots, the Republicans, except for C, that follow him. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if they got anybody, because it definitely ain't Kamala. It definitely ain't Kamala. Kamala ain't the one. If Joe don't run, it ain't gonna be Sister Kamala. That ain't gonna happen.
Do we even know what she thinks about anything?
It seemed like she just been mad the whole time. We haven't seen her in forever. I thought Joe's up there getting on her nerves.
Mad about what?
I don't know. You just don't see her. Like
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know. I'll be forgetting she exists. Legitimately.
I'm gonna come back to the question now. I definitely think it depends on if he runs again. It depends on who runs against him.
Who, Joe?
Yeah, if Joe runs again,
yeah,
it depends on who runs against him. Because
I'm trying to think.
If it's Trump or DeSantis, if it's Trump or DeSantis, I'm gonna give it to Weekend at Bernie's Biden. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you, for real.
Yeah, but see, this the thing. This the thing is there's a point where a lot of people, you have to say, it's not about me. And so Joe, if he's really truly looking out for the future of the Democratic Party in the country, he needs to step aside, man. That's my fly. I think he does. I think he needs to step aside, man.
I agree.
I don't know. I don't think Trump would gave my money to the Ukraine.
That's what old boy did. That's what old boy did to get Ketanji Harrison. They was like, hey, look, we don't need another Ruth Bader Ginsburg, homeboy.
Right.
Get up on out of here so we can get some fresh blood, some young blood on the seat.
But you said it best.
Did you see where when she had her magazine cover and people were critiquing it because they had her like next to Abe Lincoln, and like the lighting was all bad, so she looked all gray and shaded.
They keep using that artist. She did the same thing to Simone Biles.
And they were like, why would you do this? Why would you do this? And somebody said, like, it took me 5 minutes to lighten up her tone to where she actually looks like she's supposed to look. And some of the decisions Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson made back in the day, her and y'all's VP, they made the same decision. I was like, that ain't my battle. I'm gonna let her go ahead and handle that. Y'all can read between the lines on that one. Y'all can read between the lines, because if you had a brother like me behind you, I'm gonna make sure. We need to get this lighting right. I'm gonna say that right. But I don't know, man. I think the Democrats are still in trouble. But I am happy with some of the trend that they're going towards now. I don't know if it's enough. I don't know if it's enough to make a difference on midterms if they could keep both of the houses so that they could really get some stuff done So I mean, because they lose one of those houses, he's lame duck anyway.
This the thing though, to me, is there's a lot of candidates that on these midterms and these state races, governors and senator. I mean, Herschel Walker specifically, like if that's like a litmus test though, because if he really wins, then yeah, the country's terribly on the wrong path. I mean, there's no turning back from it, man.
The fact that he feels comfortable enough running, that's like
right.
it's on the wrong path.
So I kind of think that I mean, that's how I felt in 2016 as well. So we'll see. But I felt like, people are going to come to their senses and be like, come on, man, we're going to, realistically, we can't have this guy in office, and they'll vote a certain way. But I mean, like I said, we were all wrong 6 years ago.
And we all woke up the next morning with our feelings hurt.
Right. But you said the Democrats have an issue. I was sitting here thinking, you said they waffle a lot. I'm gonna start calling the Democrats the Roscoes, because they chicken, they scared to do everything, and they waffle. I'm gonna start calling them the Roscoes. They chicken and they waffle. So
listen, you're not wrong though, because like some of these people have like so much audacity. I don't know if you guys remember that couple, the white couple, where I know he was an attorney. I think maybe she was too, where they pulled the guns out on protesters.
Yeah, that was St. Louis.
He ran for office. He was literally on the ballot in Missouri. I was like, you have an open criminal case, sir.
Right. Like you're
on the ballot. The audacity. Focus. Right. What you got going on over here? They don't care. They be like, oh, let me use this notoriety to rile up my people.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. Missouri is ridiculous as a whole.
Yeah, it is. And my fear, you're talking about the Mar-a-Lago. My fear with that is that if they move too slowly, he's going to be like a Che Guevara to the Republican Party, man. And these people are going to be using his name as a war cry. And they're going to be, oh, we're going to rally behind him. And they're, and he's going to, I'm not going to say influence, because they're already so influenced. He's going to energize them even more if they don't actually have all their ducks in a row and get the charges that they need to get charged, get the convictions that need to get done. That's my fear with the whole thing.
I feel as if Milquetoast Merrick Garland, and I call him that because y'all's boy Barack put him up for that Supreme Court seat when he should have put a black woman up there. But Milquetoast Merrick Garland, I feel as if he is being methodical and he's taking his time to make sure that it's done right when going after Trump. I'm not an attorney. Arika's our attorney. I definitely don't know the whole procedures and the process when it comes down to, okay, how do we build a case against Trump? Because they said he had like top class secret documents in like boxes in the basement of Mar-a-Lago. Like what is going on? Like really, what? And all of us, when he was in office, all of us thought that he was in the Russians' back pocket anyway. So how he even able to leave with those documents? Y'all should have had some watchdogs there and be like, hey, homeboy, nah, you can't take that. So like what is, like, this is a monkey operation up in DC. What is going on? So I think that's a major issue. But let me ask y'all this. So student loans, Joe finally pulled the trigger on it, right? Whether we are 100% happy with it or not, he fulfilled a campaign promise. He did. So, of course, reparations is always number one for us, right? But considering the runaround we get on that, what would you like to see addressed now for ADOS in this country? What's the issue that you think needs to be addressed now? I'll go ahead and start to give y'all time to think. Something has to be done about the homeless problem that we have in this country. In particular, that it stands out for me because I live in a major city, and in most other major cities I visit, when I see homeless people, I'm going to say from my perspective, I'm going to say 7, 8 out of 10 are all Black men. You see homeless people, you primarily you see black men, some black women, you may see, you know, some white folks or whatever, but primarily you're seeing our brothers who are on the street and who are homeless. And I think something needs to be done with that. I remember talking to a young man who fought for our country over in Afghanistan. He asked me, "Hey, should we be donating food and supplies to other countries?" And I said, "Yeah." I mean, I was young. I was like, "Yeah." I mean, humanitarian. You know, we're a rich country. He said, "Nope." He said, "As long as we got people who are living on the streets, we shouldn't be giving a dime to anybody else." So for me, I think the homeless problem that we have, you go out to LA, to Skid Row. I tell you, me and Lab talk about how we went out to LA and today's Mama Day. Shout out to Kobe, right? We were out in LA. Lab got on the shirt. We were out in LA and we was out kicking it. And we said, "Hey man, uh, we hungry. Let's go ahead and slide to this McDonald's." So, you know, you pull up the phone, what's the nearest McDonald's? We ended up on Skid Row, the McDonald's on Skid Row. And when I tell you the number of black men just walking around aimlessly, it's a problem. It's a problem. And I don't know the answer. I think I know the answer is reparations. But if they're not going to give us that, we need to find some way to address this homeless problem because it's primarily us who are being affected by this. So, what would be y'all's issue that you would like the Democrats to address for ADOS?
I mean, I definitely like yours because homelessness really is one of those issues that I try to keep at the top of my list. But I think that for me, justice reform would have to be something because even we were talking about, we've had a lot of bail reform lately, and it's not necessarily playing out the way that we thought it would in the courts. It's just giving us more hoops to jump through. It's not necessarily affecting justice the way we thought it would.
You
So
said
I think
bail
that needs to
reform?
be.
You said bail reform?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so bail is just supposed to be like, well, there are people in jail on like $100,000 bail for like a crime that somebody else is on bail for. Like I literally had a client where his brother was out, he was still in on the same charge, but they was in the car together and he was the passenger. It's like, why am I still in jail and he's out on bond already? Like, how does that add up? So they tried to, come up with some changes to make it so that it would be more fair across the board. Just like in federal court, they try to come up with those sentencing guidelines to make it so it's more fair across the board, less discretion. But I mean, at the end of the day, it always ends up some way or another being tipped not in our favor, especially when you have individuals, prosecutors, judges who still get their own discretion, a little hand in it. Then we're always going to end up at the lower end of the spectrum. So it should be some more guidance. It should be some more stuff done in justice reform. And I don't necessarily, like you said, I don't know all the answers. I don't know exactly how that would look to kind of make it more fair across the board, but I think it's definitely something that we need to look at. And if we do anything like federally and make it a requirement for states to do it, I think we'll make so much more progress than if we leave it up to the states to figure it out for themselves, because they're just not going to do it.
Okay. All right.
Man, so homelessness, criminal justice reform, those are two good ones, man. I was sitting here thinking, I think it has something, it would have to do something with kind of how we saw what happened with the people in LA. Was it Bruce Beach or land that was just taken from Black people, right? So we know that that's the number one wealth generator, or has been historically. And so there's so much lost wealth that they're not going to do reparations. That's something that needs to be looked at. We talk about people saying this is unfair with the $10,000 with the Homestead Act, 1840 or 1850, whenever it was, they just gave land to white men, just gave it to them. And so then from there, they're able to build, businesses, family, wealth. And Black people were able to get in there on that, on the tail end, not the Homestead Act, where they just given away, but they were able to build their own. Then states literally came in legally and just took it. And who knows what could have happened if those people were able to develop those lands and prosper and all that kind of stuff. It would have something to do with that. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I think that I could tie that into gentrification and how we see a lot of our neighborhoods being gentrified. And I know some people who are pro gentrification because they say, why don't you want to see neighborhoods improved? I want to see neighborhoods improved. And if that means that the people who are currently residing in those neighborhoods have to go, give them a fair price, give them a fair price for their home so that they can, you know, continue or continue or take advantage of the wealth that their parents, their grandparents left for them. And that gets kind of deep into like us being in situations where we're able to be financially savvy and have enough financial awareness to be able to make sure that we're taken care of. But I think gentrification also, that's something that we definitely need to address. It's really something Democrats need to address, because as long as they continue to erode these city centers, I mean, a lot of people have been saying it. Atlanta ain't got too much longer where they're gonna have a black mayor.
Right.
All the black folks gonna be outside the city limits, and you have a white mayor of Atlanta. So,
And
that's something that we really need to address in terms of gentrification and again, consolidating our power base. It's about power, and the Democrats don't get that. They don't get to forward. They don't forward thinking and strategizing and plotting and to say, okay, what can we do in 8 years to set ourselves up to where we have power? That's what they did when Obama took office. They was pissed off, but they said, okay, what can we do? Let's get it to where we can give unthinkable amounts of money and not have to report it. And once we do that, we're going to take over these state houses, we're going to take over these governor's mansions, and then we can rewrite the districts, and then we can make it to where all these black people that are voting, they vote all together. So their votes are minimized. They put strategy into maintaining their power because they knew, okay, pretty soon we're going to be dying off and we can't just win elections. So we got to have a Supreme Court in hand. And honestly, we talked about the 10,000 that Joe forgave. There's a good chance that you see somebody, some hater come and put a lawsuit in, right? And then it goes to that Supreme Court, and that Supreme Court says, no, Joe don't have the authority to cancel 10,000, and we don't get anything. There's a very good chance of that. So I start rambling. Let's see, give her choice. What you got, see?
Yeah, so Lab actually took mine. That was what I was gonna say. If you're not gonna really give us our 40 acres and a mule, you got to figure out some way to make it right.
Right.
Just the disparity in home ownership amongst Black people and white people in America. Like it's like the gap is steady increasing instead of decreasing the way that we need it to in the rapid time. And so I think a lot of these banks and mortgage companies need to be held accountable. I know that Wells Fargo had a small lawsuit. Bank of America had a small lawsuit. And I'm saying
Which
small
one?
because
They didn't get caught a bunch of times, especially Wells Fargo.
Right.
Yeah, Wells Fargo is
and nothing changes. That's why I said small, because if it's big enough that it actually affects them and hits their pockets the right way, it won't continue to happen. It's almost like small enough to be a slap on the wrist, but everyone else is going to keep doing the same thing. So that's what I would really like to see change in America for Black people's home ownership. But then, like Lav said, just the land. And then, you're right. I mean, they're winning basically from just playing a long game from, a century ago. Even just in the state I live in Oklahoma, like, they got land from Black people, they got land from Native Americans, and now they found oil on it. And then they're growing their own marijuana, and they're coming up off the, making and selling to these dispensaries. Like they're just continuing to prosper off land that probably wasn't theirs, in the first place, and we're just never
probably. Yeah.
Well, okay, so you know what I mean. I knew it wasn't theirs originally, but I'm just saying, like, over time, whether that was slavery, they got money off of cotton, and then they're buying up property, or if they're buying out the Native Americans, whatever they're doing, they're just continuing.
Or they pay $5 to be considered a Native American, and $5.
A lot of them did that, and they admit that though. That's not even, that's what's so funny is that I like heard about that or read about that like growing up, and just kind of thought it was like a hush hush thing. I had someone tell me like the whole story that his great grandparents and grandparents told him, like just nothing. Like he just tell them.
But there's a thing though, and they will, because I know some people, white as can be, white as can be, and they proud of it. They say, oh yeah, my kids got an Indian card. So they get the school supplies, they get such and such and such and such. And I was like, you married to a Native American? And she the whitest Indian you. That's how they say it. Native American.
Yeah.
She the whitest Indian you'll ever see. So you
Oh,
already know
entire tribes look that way.
you already know what the
Yeah.
deal is. I remember when I was at a diversity meeting. Put on by some Black organization here in Dallas. And of course, you had the Hispanics there, and there was this white man there. And I was like, what's this white dude doing here? Like, you know, everybody like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And this dude stood up. I said, well, maybe, you know, he looked kind of like buff. He you know, he don't look tender, you know what I mean? So I know he went with the LGBT, you know, people. I might get in trouble for that, but y'all know what I meant.
You will.
Well, they know my heart. If anybody ride for them, it's me.
God's your protector.
God's my bodyguard.
Yeah.
Anyway, get it right. God, my bodyguard. This dude got up white. He whiter than Joe Biden. He whiter than Mitch McConnell. Listen, I'm telling you, this man was white. And he said, I'm here on behalf of the United Tribes of such and such and such and such Native Americans. And I said, what? And I was just like, man, if it wasn't rude, I would have pulled out my camera and took a picture and sent it to y'all. So, you know, everybody, but then they want to tell what
I would have believed you.
Then what do they say about Black people? Y'all the welfare queens.
Yeah.
Y'all the food stamps.
Mhm.
Got no problem to see to your point where they say they laugh and joke about it.
They do, but they're the majority anyway.
That's the gaslighting, right? That's the gaslighting. Oh, y'all just want a handout. Man, y'all the biggest recipients of handouts.
In history.
Any loophole in the world, they're gonna find it. But I read a book called Killers of the Flower Moon, and it was all about how the Native Americans were forced to have conservatorships over them and their money. And the white people would basically, like, in this book, this white dude married this Native American chick, basically murdered her whole family so that all the money went down to her and then killed her and then got all the money.
Oh.
But they was doing that, like everybody was doing that, because the white people were the conservators over the account. So they would be like, you can have $500 a month of your oil money. This was in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
and
they were savages though. They needed.
Yeah. And they balling off of their money.
Yeah.
I was like, they've been hustling since been hustling. They created hustling, scamming, scheming, murdering, pillaging, raping,
everything.
But that's how they got us though.
Seriously,
that's how they got us. That's where that whole term. Like I said, I'll take credit for it. I got it from Tariq Nasheed. That whole throwback baby thing. Like they know. Let's just talk about y'all's boy Kanye, because me and C and some folks are debating this in our group. Kim Kardashian, Kanye a billionaire, right? Kanye billionaire. Kim Kardashian. She got what, 4 of his babies, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be surprised if you see any one of those babies with another Kanye West. They all gonna have them a white boy, and then pretty soon it's gonna be looking like Patrick Mahomes' baby. You know what I'm saying? Where all of a sudden, after just 2 generations, all the melanin is gone.
But hold on, their whole family
all that wealth that Kanye, Patrick Mahomes accrued is right back to the white community.
I think
that's
Kanye,
the oldest play in the book. If y'all read this book by Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of the Black Civilization, that's what they did. When they came into Africa, they would say, hey, take my daughter. There she go. That's my sister. That's why she's my sister right there. They say, hey, take my daughter.
Get it to work.
They tell her, take my daughter. And then they talked about it. They said the offsprings that would come from the African and the European, or the African and the Asian, they hated the black part of them. They were trained to hate the black. They were worse than the Europeans and the Asians.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the Dominican Republic, right? And then it happens. That long game that we talked about, pretty soon they just go ahead and dilute, and then it's back to them. So, hey,
I think Ye had.
Again, shout out to Ketanji Brown and VP Kamala. But go ahead.
No,
is that shade?
was gonna say,
What's
I
up,
think
Serena? Yeah.
Shout out to Serena. Shout out to Serena.
Eve,
I think
Eve.
Kanye's kids have a good chance of you know, creating or procreating with other Black people too.
Who?
Kanye's kids.
Kanye don't who? He ain't
I ain't
don't
gonna have
go
him
away.
around him.
The kid. Well, Kanye's new girlfriend's Black.
No, she ain't.
She is too.
Ish.
Is she
Blackish?
black? Is she black like you and Erika? Or is she like black like Amber Rose?
It was somewhere in between. She's definitely blacker than Amber Rose, but not as black as Erika and I.
Yeah.
But she's
But
Black.
so,
Her dad is 100% Black, and I don't know what her mom is.
but even with
like
that,
Caribbean and Spanish or something. I don't know. But her
Damn.
dad's blacker than you in Lab. So
that's Blackish,
That's hard because I'm super black. But go ahead.
man. But that's like so
I ain't
like
mean mentally. I ain't mean mentally. Clearly, you're blacker than
my
you.
you know, my great grandmother had blonde hair and blue eyes, and everybody else in her family passed for white except for her. And they treated her worse than other people because they really walked around like they didn't know who she was, like she wasn't their sibling just because she chose to marry Black. And then like same thing you talking about the throwback baby, we've gotten blacker every generation as opposed to getting
Did
blacker
her
every
so
generation.
did any of your great grandmother's offspring or grandkids, did any of them end up being a throwback? Like this little Black kid just pop up out of nowhere?
So we don't know them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Dang,
I don't
wish
know
I
them
knew.
folks. They don't know us.
Hey,
They
that's
might.
Kanye. That's Kanye.
I
Nah.
don't know them people. I know, right? I don't know them
Hey,
folks. I know we like every now and again somebody will pop up on my timeline named Laura or some shit. I'd be like, fuck,
Listen,
not adding them.
hey, let me
we
tell
just
you.
talk about it, Marv. You know, I'm a big Michael Jackson fan of his music, of his art, but you know, I be giving him hell about his private life. Marv was mad at me when I said that somebody had said something about Patrick Mahomes, you know, losing it quick, and I said not as quick as Michael Jackson when them white kids.
Okay, but I gotta defend Mike. Mike was a victim of white supremacy. And
That's like saying they all were, though.
Are we all victims of white supremacy?
One is.
okay, let me finish my train of thought.
Okay.
And it manifested in how he saw himself, right? And how he changed his look. I mean, he was bullied by his brothers, you know, abused by his father. He had horrific burns. He had vitiligo. So yeah, he did what he did, and he adopted those white kids, right? Or he whatever he did to get they're not his kids, right? They're not his kids because that Jackson nose ain't nowhere there. But if you look at the paperwork, Mike had the paperwork right. So yeah, the white kids got some of that money, right? You know who got the majority of that money?
Catherine.
Mike's black mama. She got 40%.
She got 40, the kids
She
got
got-
40, and Charity got 20.
No.
Yeah,
No.
that's it.
Okay.
They split up 40.
She got 40. She got 40.
She did. And Charity got 20.
got 20. They got 40. But
Mhm.
who was in charge of the money? Who was in charge of their money?
Jermaine.
No.
Demeter Joe.
His black
Catherine
mama.
was in charge
His
of
black mama, Catherine.
Oh, okay.
So Mike. So yeah, Mike made some mistakes. Yeah, he did. Absolutely. But let's not just hate on the man. The brothers, he kept it real when it came to the money, to the paper. He did.
Better than what Prince did.
I don't know. All Prince's money is going to his siblings. They all Black.
After the government got all the money,
But he didn't have a will or nothing.
Yeah, that
He
was
didn't have
odd.
nothing in place.
After the
Like-
attorneys and
But see-
governments raped it for what they wanted, yeah, how much is left?
All this goes back to the last episode we are talking about and the gentrification and stuff like that, because you leave certain areas, you make it right, and
Mhm.
you're surrounded by those. So unless you're actively seeking those or going to those locations, who else are they supposed to end up with though? I mean,
What you mean?
you know,
I'm not following.
Mark can speak to that. 'cause
I feel attacked.
I'm not following.
feel
that. What
attacked.
you mean by that?
He's
Well,
saying
but
you
I'm saying-
take your
What I'm
kids
saying-
out to these white neighborhoods and hang them around white people, and then they bring home white people and you
No,
shocked
I'm-
and amazed.
I was talking about, I'm thinking about like say Patrick Mahomes type, where his dad was an athlete, so he probably didn't even live in the upper middle class neighborhoods that
It's a cop
we
out.
moved to. He probably lived somewhere even further beyond that.
That's a cop out. I'm gonna
No,
tell you.
you say it's a cop out, but it's fact.
Yeah.
It's
So-
fact that people
It's-
fall in love
okay.
with who they're around.
Yeah, I have a cousin who
Here's the
that
deal,
happened
though.
to.
Here's the deal, though. Here's the deal.
Not everybody puts their kid in Jack and Jill or whatever, you know.
You seek
Yeah.
what you seek what you want. And his dad set the example, right? You know, his dad set an example for him, probably his dad's homeboys. Because most dudes who don't date sisters, they hang with other dudes who don't date sisters for the most part. You may have one or two who bold enough, you know, say, but for the most part, they hang with cats who are like them. So that's what he saw. But I'm a prime example. And see, can back me up. I went to one of those schools where out of 800 kids, there's probably 40 of us. 40.
She laughed.
But it's the truth.
It is.
It's the
I
truth.
thought she was gonna say it was less.
And I think it was
Right,
why I laughed when he said
No,
40.
you
I was like,
know, you know why I know it was 40? Because guess who was president of the BSU, or the Black Student Union, for 2 years?
you?
Of course, me,
Yeah.
right? So I know it was 40 of us. 40 of us, right? And the racism that we encountered on a daily basis, I just don't see it. I don't, there's no way that you can assimilate. There's no way. Now, Pat might have been able to, because I did see the difference when I'm captain of the football team, you know, Big Marv, you know, starting left tackle, and how
Right.
the white teachers and administrators treated me. But as soon as football season was over, I was just another N-word.
Yep.
I learned that lesson quick.
Mhm.
Yep.
So I
Where
always
she
tell
came
people, they say, why are you so militant? I was like, because I seen how they are when they don't have to put on a front.
Hmm.
Or when you're not doing anything for them.
Oh,
Yeah.
Once you can't
When
run,
you're
jump,
not
catch,
doing
and fetch no more.
and you're not doing anything for them. So like if you go to a predominantly black high school, like C did, right? Some of them,
So my school wasn't predominantly black.
the hell it
looked
wasn't.
like that.
See,
You
Huh?
went to Topeka High.
it was the blackest school in Topeka.
It was, but it wasn't predominantly black. Everybody thinks that because when you see the teams, you'd be like, "Oh, that's the black
Okay,
school."
so,
No,
all right.
there's
So
more white.
The blackest. This is what happens. Me and Steve about to argue. So this is what happens when you live in an area, or you go to or you at an institution like HBCU or a school that, you know, hey, listen, there's a good number of us. You start to look at them and you think that, you know, man, it would be good just to be around them. Man, it would just, you know, and I'm not saying C thought like this, but a lot of your classmates did. Man, it would be good just if I could be around them, my life would be better. And you don't realize how mediocre and twisted and sick some of them are. And you realize it ain't really no prize to be around them. You know who the slaves that ran away the most? You know the slaves who ran away the most? You know who they were? The house slaves. You know why? Because they had a front row seat to the depravity of master. You know, massa. I say it right, massa. So anyway, I don't give cats like Pat Mahomes credit. I mean, that's his life. It's whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what Laugh's saying though, because I had a cousin.
I understand what he's saying, but I still don't think it's. I think it's a cop out. I think it's a cop out. I think it's.
Now I'm saying you
But
as a
sometimes
parent,
options though. So
as
like
a
my
parent,
cousin.
you have to be conscious of that thing. And if your parents not, then it's hard to hold your kid accountable for the way they were raised. That's what
You're
I'm
not
saying.
That's why I agree with you there. And that's why
exposing them to other people.
yeah, and that's why I
to
made the
your
point.
people.
That's why I made the point. Pat's dad. And
Yeah.
and probably the other cats.
Well, and it depends on where he lived though, because so like I have a cousin who literally just didn't have a whole lot of options where he grew up. Like there was just, I mean, he had to wait until after he got an adult, went to college and moved out.
Be a
and
priest.
See him.
No.
And-
Be a monk.
And he's
No.
married to a black woman now, though, is what I'm saying. But in high school, and it wasn't just his high school, it was his city, his town. Like, you know, sometimes if you're, you know, you'd have to probably get in the car and drive like 30 minutes or an hour just to see somebody that looks like you. So most likely, you know, he was just dating people that was in his school who lived in his neighborhood. So, but once he found them, you know, like I said, he hasn't turned back.
I get it. I get it.
So let me ask.
It makes sense.
This is kind of off base, but what do you think of Angelina Jolie sending her kid to the HBCU?
I think that's pretty
it.
cool.
Where's
I
she
like
sending to? She sent her to FAM or Howard. Which one was it?
Spellman.
Oh, Spellman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, and guess what? them Negroes was happy as all get out. They was doing the electric slide. They was like, we got us a new donor. We got us a new booster.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
I was like, look at
But,
these
you know, I
alumni
don't-
check. I was thinking that too, because I was like, yeah, my son has had a girlfriend apparently for a long time that we just accidentally found out about before we took him down to school. And I was like, oh, I see why you ain't tell us about her.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well,
but
hey, at least he know. At least he know though. All
But
right.
anyway, I think we talked about it enough. We getting into the weeds. Joe, shout out to Joe Byron. You fulfilled the campaign promise. I mean, we think you probably could have went a little bit further,
Bernie.
Joe, but she said Bernie. Joe, that's funny. That's always gonna be funny. We get it, Bernie. But shout out to Joe. On to the next one. Hey, we gotta keep the foot on the gas, y'all. We have to, keep holding these Democrats accountable. They get our vote. They are accountable to us. And we definitely need to, we talked about some good ideas. If you have the ear of your local representative, put that out there. We're going to try to do the same here as a show, as a group of individuals that come together, but definitely, let your voice be heard. So with that being said, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at manlistenshow. Listen to the show on YouTube, listen on iTunes. Go to our website, www.manlistenshow.com. You can listen to our old shows and let everybody know about the show. We've been putting out some good content. We're going to have some good guests on. We had a good guest on last week. We were talking about the situation down here in Dallas. Some good information, good discussions, and we appreciate all the support that we've been getting. We'll holler at you next time. Peace.
voting reform too. Forgot about that one. Peace.
Yeah.